Alright, it has been 1 year since I posted about my DAW-less synth setup, and I need to give you some updates because it has changed a lot. Remember when I was in that corner over there? Check it out. There's that video of that. In that time, I was using, well, first of all, I didn't have a flat top at that time, so that was a big difference, but I was also using the Digitac as the main brain of my setup. And that was totally different than what I'm doing now, which is using Ableton Live for kind of a hybrid DAW-less setup. I guess DAW-less just means you don't use Ableton to make music, and hybrid means you got some hardware. So I'm going to break that down for you today, how that's working out for me, how it's not working out for me, contrast it with the hardware setup, and all that good stuff. Alright, so allow me to truly break down. Alright, so let's take a look at all the actual pieces of gear I got. So that's the Seat Lombarda Coco Quantus, which is essentially it's two lo-fi samplers slash delays. And that's all I'm going to say about that. The Moog Matriarch. This is kind of the main melodic instrument that kind of defines the timbre of a lot of the songs that I'm working on currently. So this is kind of the main thing that I'm working with. We look up at the second row, we got the Boss SP202, which is an excellent vintage sampler. I use that mainly for vocal chops, actually. And then my trusty old Digitac, the Electron Digitac, can't go wrong. You'll notice there's no audio cables. That's because I use it audio over USB only. So I can record all 4 tracks individually. And then next to that is a Roland clone by Behringer, the TD3, which is a clone of the 303. What is that actually? The T303? I'm not sure. And then up top we have the Akai APC 40 MK2, which I barely use this. I'm probably going to sell it soon, but all I do on it is mute and unmute tracks. And I have in the past used it for, like you can use the grid up top to trigger different patterns, which I used in one setup, which was pretty fun and worked pretty well. Over here we have the Electron Analog Heat, which is a analog warming device and distortion pedal. The Strymon Volanti Echo pedal. Both of these are send effects within Ableton, and I'll show you how to set that up. But that's very convenient versus them just being like direct, like on whatever you would call like direct line effects. And then for MIDI controller, I have a Arturia Keystep. I think it's just called Keystep before they made all of the additional ones. I got that like 2 years ago. And then the Akai MPD 218, which I use to control the drum rack in Ableton. And then behind that, underneath my monitor, the monitor is a Dell 38-inch widescreen or something, if you're curious about that. But the audio interface is a Focusrite 18i20 and a Scarlett Octave extender below it. And my monitor is a Mackie 824, HR824. And I got both of the monitors for like $300, and they're like $850 new per speaker, so that was a great deal. And then also routed to the interface is the Shure SM57 and the Heinrichsen Jazz Amp, which I use with my Guild guitar and my Fender Finline. And then behind, covered with a Mexican blanket from Tijuana, is my drum set and an old keyboard my cousin gave me when I was broke. So that's everything. And then I got my turntables over there and my records and stuff. So all of this stuff is routed into the interface, and actually the interface is sending a couple lines out as well. So we have, like I said, we have these are send effects, which means they're taking input from the from the interface. Same with this one. And I have a third one going over here, which actually is just like on the ground somewhere, I think, right now. Or no, wait, it's this. I just am routing it so that I can sample anything from within the DAW with the Coco Quantus or the SP202, and potentially I can just take this line and just, like, you know, send it to whatever I have out here. So that makes it quite modular in that, like, you can kind of send stuff anywhere. So let's go inside the DAW a little bit and I'll show you how it's all set up. My quick aside about these empty spaces. I currently have a modular setup coming, a palette case from IntelliGel, and I had a Moog Minotaur sitting here until this morning. I just sold that and purchased a Behringer I think it's called an MS1, but the SH101 clone, so that's what's going to go in those two spaces. Alright, we're in the DAW now. We got some configuration to go over. So let's go to the preferences first. Now, I have my my Focusrite interface set up with the Octopre. That took a little bit of back and forth with the actual Focusrite software itself. I won't go too into detail with this because it's not within the scope of this video, but just very quickly, these are, anyway, you can take a look at my settings if you want, but the point is the interface is synced to its internal clock, and it's sending that clock through a word clock cable to the Octopre, and the Octopre is connected through an ADAT cable to the interface. And then I have my own routing as, you know, as I desire. But it wasn't too hard to get set up, just a little bit of troubleshooting back and forth. But back to the Ableton Live preferences, where we have the ASIO driver selected for the Focusrite interface. And here you can set up, you can label your inputs. So I have no need for this one to be enabled actually, but the first two inputs are the echo, the third line input is the room mic that I showed you, and then the fourth is the jazz amp, etc. And I showed you that the Digitact isn't hooked up through audio anymore. At one point I did have it that way. And then this could be named like generic line out, but it's the Coco Quantus or the SB202 one that I showed you. But anyway, and this allows you to sample your actual computer. This is the DJ setup, the two turntables that I showed you over there. And this is obsolete. That's the keyboard in my corner. The Minotaur I no longer own. So yeah, good thing I came in here. And then the outputs, like I described before, I got my two monitors, and then there's a stereo system in the corner of my room that you've probably seen. And then the outputs to the two effects pedals, well, and I guess the third effect pedal, if you want to call it that. And that's essentially it in terms of the preferences setup. Then how I actually control the instruments is, let me just switch this input to be from the key step. I actually control them through external instrument tracks or external instrument devices. If you go into instruments, external instrument, drag that on. I guess that just, yeah, let's delete it. I'll show you how to do it from scratch. Whoops. External instrument. Oh, I guess it's done already. So, but you select your MIDI device, and then you choose the correct audio. And there we go. I'm playing the key step over here, by the way. I didn't show you the MIDI setup. Let me just go back to that quickly. Or I didn't go into detail, at least. Almost all of these devices are connected through MIDI USB instead of like MIDI 5-pin, I think it's called DIN. But that works pretty well for all of them because it makes them input and output device with one cable. The only problem, the overbridge constantly fails, at least for my Digitact, and makes me restart it. And then the other problem I was having that I posted about on Instagram, follow me there if you're not, at DJ_psoriasis. The other issue I was posting about is how the Moog Matriarch clock will play like one beat off, or around like, well, around like 200 milliseconds off from the clock, the metronome of Ableton Live. And for that you can adjust the latency, but then the latency is not necessary for when you're actually using a keyboard and actually playing it. It's only necessary for when you're using the Matriarch's internal sequencer. So the point being, all this stuff doesn't necessarily always work together that well, and that's kind of like the downfall of the hybrid setup. And that's why a lot of people move from the DAW to just hardware, is like they don't want to deal with all the bugs and stuff, I guess. But I never really understood that perspective, because all of these instruments are using software too, and they can have just as many bugs as this software does on a computer. I mean, these are computers as well, like the Digitact. So I don't think that that's like good reasoning. I think it's just yeah, it's hard to tell. I actually haven't troubleshooted it enough to tell you whether or not the analog clock of the Matriarch would be off if I was trying to sync it with the Digitact, for example. So I can't necessarily blame hybrid setup as the thing, but it's just something, I guess, to be aware of. And maybe it's not an issue with a hybrid setup. Maybe it's a Matriarch issue or an analog clock issue, as a user on Muff Wiggler advised that analog clocks are just hard to do right. So anyway, back to the actual track setup. The next external instrument is the TD3, the bass synth here. I'm playing both at once, which, you know, you can if you want, or just this one. And then you'll notice as I'm playing that, so let's go back to here. So I'll just show you like how I would start a track. All these did not need to be recording. Oh, I didn't show you the Digitact. So the Digitact is set up through Overbridge. Here's the Digitact VST that very annoyingly, whenever you're recording, no matter if this record is lit or not, will record anything you do on the Digitact, such as like muting and whatnot. It would be great if I wanted it to do that. Like, you know, if I was recording a live take and I wanted to record all my mutes and whatever, and wanted to play that back live, but that's just not my setup. So it's just very annoying that you can't disable that no matter what you do. I guess without, yeah, and you can't delete this track and still use the Digitact VST like audio over MIDI stuff. So I don't know, but basically after that, after you add this Digitact VST track, you can then select it through an audio track, select it from an audio track, and then choose which track you want to monitor from the Digitact. So if I were to, let me mute everything besides Digitact. So that audio is coming straight from the Digitact over USB, so I could record that. And then, you know, whatever, solo the kick. So it's pretty versatile, pretty good when it works. That's the asterisk, is like Overbridge doesn't work half the time. Maybe it's just me. Comment if Overbridge sucks for you, but it sucks for me. I'm gonna send my Digitact back and see if there's anything they can do about it, actually. But so let me continue with kind of how I would build a track here. So I would make this make a little sequence. Let me turn off the drums for now. Cannot see. So yeah, that sequence is just being sent to the matriarch. So let me pan this over a little bit for you. Is this gonna work? Yeah, so I can live edit the matriarch, which is just sick. Like the sequencer, you know, the sequencer is great on the matriarch, except for that clock issue I mentioned. But of course, like editing editing MIDI notes right in live is probably preferable for just about anybody. So we got that, and then, you know, you might come over here, do a little something like this. This is the biggest benefit of, well, the biggest benefit over pure DAW is that I can just throw a bunch of notes into the, or throw a bunch of steps into the Digitac like immediately and just have a drum pattern like so. Let me just show you this other thing while we're here, the send effects. So yeah, if I wanted to hear the bass through this pedal right here, through this Volanti echo pedal, I will do this. And then I can put it through. This is not an external device. It's just a VST. I'm not gonna do that, but the Volanti Echo, like the external effect, it's just like audio, external instrument or whatever it's called, external instrument, but it's external audio effect, and it just does the same thing. It's pretty cool, I think. And then the really cool thing about it is the kind of the modularity of it. So you can take the analog heat and put that, and then filter the delays through the heat. Here, I'll crank this shit up so you can really hear it. Or I'll solo this. I'm playing with the filter of the heat right now. So yeah, it's pretty cool, and you can switch the order of that. The next step, after you kind of got like a little groove going, I would probably work on this for like a few hours, like, you know, the melody and all that. But just for demonstration purposes, all of these will be armed, all of the Digitac individual tracks, and then what I have going here is an output of this entire track post mixer. So, well, there are no effects for it to go through, but let's say, you know, if I put a effect on here, this track would record post effect, which is pretty cool. It just might be delayed because of, you know, latency involved in digital signal processing. So then let's record. And then I'm gonna be like live editing the drums. You can do it in multiple ways. That's the beauty of it, is just having that like flexibility. Like I can either just record a loop of the drums and then like just take them out in the DAW as I see fit, or record live like this, where we're not recording any snare and shit because those tracks are muted over here right now. So I'm gonna turn those on, like the rim and the tom. So now we can hear those, and they're being recorded. And simple. And then I can play, you know, I can change both of the synths while we're playing this too. So you can do like a lot of live kind of editing, make it kind of sound more alive instead of just having like a loop. You know, you're recording like a long 5-minute section with all the minute changes that occur in an analog instrument like the Matriarch, for example, or even the TD3. So, and then you can like edit it as you're playing, you know, open the filter a bit. And then like you see how just I made a mistake there where like the closed hi-hat should have came in a beat earlier when the open hi-hat was still playing. The best thing about having these separate tracks is you can just go in and edit it after. So there's a lot of power in that. Whereas like I would be forced previously to either re-record the whole thing or just like put out something imperfect, which, you know, whatever. There's the debate to be had about that, but that's not the effect that I'm usually going for. So yeah, you can even see like the waveform has changed over time. It's not playing the same thing every time. And then let's just stop that. And now when you play this, I will mute those two. But now we're not hearing the digit. We're not hearing any of my external instruments. This is all in the box. Because of the auto here, we're actually just hearing this audio track, as it'll switch to this when there's an audio track, and when there's not, now we're hearing the digitact. It'll auto switch. It's pretty cool. And the really cool thing about this is look at the perfect timing. Oh wait, is it off a little bit? I don't even care. It's hard to tell without cranking this shit. Yeah, it is off. Never mind. I thought it was like dumb perfect timing, but anyway, it's close enough. You could just do a little bit of nudging. But these are a little bit off too, so whatever. But yeah, like that's the other thing. That's the other like downside of I guess a DAW-less setup is the latency stuff. Like, but this is kind of just you can fix this in advance with just like if I was actually using this hardware latency thing, like which I should, or like properly. If I had that set up properly, I wouldn't be dealing with this at all. So it's really just a matter of how much work you put into setting it up and whatnot. I got 399 subscribers right now. I want to do YouTube full time. I'm a programmer, man. I just want to make videos like this, just talking about beep boop loppers and all that good stuff. Because it really, otherwise, what's life? Unless you're a consumerist shill for the synth industry and don't even realize it, like me. So anyway, I'm going to give you a great incentive. At 500 subscribers, I will dismember myself. One of real as real life. Real as the fact that Obama is a war criminal. At 1,000 subscribers, I will get any up to 2.5-inch tattoo of anything on any part of the body that I decide. And that's real life. And then at 1,500 subscribers,
I'll just straight up buy one of you, whatever Behringer clone is popular at the time or something around $300. Leave me some comments letting me know how I can make this content more worthwhile for you. If you don't like this video, I don't know, you're kind of sick, I think, but so anyway, that's it. Oh my